everybody. It's Dr. Deb and
I'm Dr. Shaleigh here at AlignLife of Sugar Hill.
It's so good to see you guys. As always, we are here to give love and serve out of our abundance. We want to share with you all of the things that will help you to live a healthy, happy, and abundant life without falling victim to the misinformation or the lack of information that's out there. Oftentimes we have patients come to us and they're in a state of frustration and confusion, or living out the effects of a poorly researched life and making poor decisions just literally because nobody is guiding the way. So we're here today and every month teaching you all the things that it takes to live a healthy, happy life. So today we are talking about something that we both have a passion for, which is preconception. So spoiler alert, we are doing a 3-part series on preconception, conception, and postpartum. So this is the start of that series, and we're so excited because this is, like Dr. Deb said, this is a subject that not a lot of women are taught at a young enough age about the importance of their menstrual cycle and endocrine disruptors that are chemicals that we're exposed to, and their gut health, and also their male partner and their health as well. So we're going to talk and dive into all of that today, and we're super excited to get started. Do you know the 3 places that women are most neglected in pregnancy?
I don't.
Pre-pregnancy.
Okay, yes.
Nobody knows how to be prepared, which is one of the things we're going to talk about. Also, not menopausal, that's me. I'm getting myself confused. Post-pregnancy, right? Nobody thinks about mom after pregnancy, and moms oftentimes suffer, but the most neglected place, yet the place where they're most seen and most think they're being cared for is during pregnancy itself.
Yeah. And
is that not true?
That is totally true. And which is sad considering how much the care that they don't get.
Yeah.
But actually in America specifically, our country as a whole completely limits the amount of postpartum support that other countries naturally just give to their moms.
Yeah.
Both in education and physical support and having help whether at home or even at work. So again, having the healthiest pregnancy possible is the best way to have the best recovery long-term.
Absolutely.
So whenever we're talking about pregnancy and women who struggle to get pregnant, actually right now, the World Health Organization, 1 in 6 women will struggle with infertility or have fertility issues. Yeah. Sperm counts over the last 50 years have dropped 50%.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
And this is not a genetic thing. If it was genetic, then you would not be here.
Absolutely. So we are going to talk today because of those facts and how astonishing they are, and how we've got to work and walk with women through their preconception, their conception, and postpartum journey. So we want to share all of that knowledge with you, which we're super excited about. So while our primary focus today is on women's health, we will be talking about men as well, because they are actually, not the majority of the time, but 40% of the time, they are actually the problem too. So
it takes 2 to make a thing go right, girls.
It does. So we need a healthy egg and we need a healthy sperm to fertilize that egg. But we're going to dive into all of that. The first thing we're going to talk about is the menstrual cycle. You know this, but do you know that the menstrual cycle for women is actually a vital sign? Yeah. We so often, 1, dread the menstrual cycle, and 2, we don't talk about it like we should. It is a vital sign. It is something that our bodies, they're designed to do. And how cool is it that as women, we literally grow and shed an organ every single month? It's crazy. It is so cool. So we're going to dive into the fundamentals here in a second. But the fundamentals of fertility is the menstrual cycle. Yes. So if you are not actively having a cycle and it's not healthy, or it's not at the right length even, if it's too long or too short, then your body may not ovulate like it's supposed to, which we know ovulation is how we get pregnant. Well, that's part of how you get pregnant.
Yeah. And there is a normal, the 28-day cycle is normal. There's also a common, like women like myself, when I was younger, I thought it was normal for me to have a 23-day cycle. Or then it shifted to a 28-day cycle. that's not normal. If there's a shift in your body's normal chemistry, that means you need to look within to find out where the problem is.
Yep. And so for the purpose of today, we will kind of be basing all of our information off of the average cycle length, which is about 28 to, depending on the literature, 34 days. But that is what's considered right now a normal, typical length for a cycle. So everything's going to be kind of based around that. But that can vary per person, but hormone testing is also something that we recommend you do either with a functional medicine doctor, or if you have a holistic OBGYN, sometimes they'll run some great panels for you. But either way, testing is knowing.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that here in a minute. Whenever we are talking about the menstrual cycle itself, there are 4 phases. Okay. So there's the menstrual phase. There is the follicular phase, the ovulation day, which is the funnest day, and then the luteal phase. So all those 4 phases are crucial in being able to get pregnant. And most women know of the 4 phases, but awareness of fertility in the phases is the best way to know if your body's functioning like it should.
Because here's the reality. Does your gynecologist talk to you about the 4 phases? Do they talk to you how the body breaks down, how it builds up, how you really get pregnant? I mean, we know sperm and egg, and we know that we have a menstrual cycle when you can't get pregnant, and then we have an ovulation period where you can. But aside from that, nobody ever really tells you how your body works. So this is really a breakdown of anatomy and physiology.
Yep, absolutely. So whenever we're talking about the menstrual phase, this is actually day 1 of your cycle's start. Okay. So a lot of people think it starts after your cycle is over, and that's day 1, which kind of would make sense, but it's not. It's on day 1 of when your menstrual starts. And then it continues until after the luteal phase, where your menstrual cycle starts again. So that's where all the phases have finished. Ovulation is a big question that we get a ton. So when do I ovulate? How do I know when I'm ovulating? This is where we really recommend getting an app to track, which we have apps now, which is so cool. There's an app for everything. There is an app for everything. I love the Flow app. It is one of my favorites. It tracks symptoms. You put in your own symptoms, and it'll tell you what part of your cycle you're most likely in. And then if you have a wearable like an Oura Ring or Whoop or even the Apple Watch, it can also correlate your temperature and download it into your app, which now is so cool.
If you either don't know how to use technology or don't trust technology, I guarantee nobody here watching this is my age, because you're not looking to get pregnant. But we also know that the fail-safe ways of finding out if you are ovulating is by checking your cervical Oz, by taking your basal temperature, and what was the third one? I forgot the third one.
And just tracking on paper, like old school. You can track it.
You can track it. So you want to see what your normal is, and you'll see a difference in the temperature. But there's some really good books out there. I have a book that I love. It is from back in the day, but it still holds true. It's the No Pill, No Risk Birth Control by Nona Aguilar. And Dr. Shaleigh, I know you have a favorite book.
Yes, I love In the Flow. Flow app. In the Flow is the book, but it's by Alyssa Vitti, and she has such a passion, which I'm sure that author does too, but such a passion for holistic women's healthcare and using natural family planning methods and women understanding their cycle as a birth control form rather than a pill or an implant or something that's going to impact your body long term.
Absolutely.
So, love that book. We'll have the links for both of those available below.
Absolutely.
As well.
What we always say in everything we do, begin with the end in mind. So decide how you want life to look like years from now, your health, your activity level, your availability to connect with your older children and grandchildren, because the things that you do now are going to affect that then. So think about the things that we're talking about, because even though you may not feel a difference in the things that you do at the moment, it'll make a difference long term.
It's crazy. So you have been impacted yourself since your grandmother was born, you've been impacted by the chemicals that she was exposed to, and then your mom, and then now you. And all of that plays into what we have to take into consideration in fertility and in your hormones.
It's true.
Which is wild. So for preconception, one of the key components is testing. We love hormone testing. I do a hormone panel through the Dutch test, which is dry urine. once a year, as well as compare it to a blood panel. That is because that's a vital sign that I recognize. That's something that even though my insurance company doesn't care about paying for it, I do, because I would rather spend money now, a couple $100s a year, to make sure that my hormones are in check, so that when we're ready to have kids, we don't have to circle around and pay thousands and thousands of dollars, hopefully not, for fertility treatments.
Well, and here's the reality. Why would you want to wait to find out months after trying to get pregnant that you can't get pregnant? Now you're going to start to work on making things better when you could have started before you ever tried to get pregnant? That doesn't make any sense. And I can tell you this, ladies, I am talking to you from experience. My husband and I tried to get pregnant and we couldn't, and we waited. And this is why I am so passionate about teaching, because I don't want you to end up where we ended up, which was devastating. And we did all of the things that we didn't want to do because I didn't do the things prior to preparing myself to get my body healthy enough to sustain a pregnancy.
Which is, again, why us coming together on this is so cool, because we get to use your experience and all the things that you found out later that you guys, and I know Dr. Joe is very passionate about that too, on things that you would have done, which is why your recommendations they hold so true. But when we're talking about testing, there are two ways to test your hormones. There's a blood panel and then there's a urine panel. So what's cool about comparing the two, which you have to compare the two, that's the trick. You can't just look at one. So what's available in blood is what your body is actually producing.
That's right.
Correct? And then what's available in what you see in urine is what it's actually utilizing.
Yes. What's happening inside the cell.
Yeah.
Just because you're making it doesn't mean your body is healthy enough to utilize it.
Or utilizing it in the right way.
Sure.
It might be using it, but sending it through the wrong pathway, and then overusing one area and understimulating another.
Sure.
Which is where some women present and they have normal cycles, and their cycle has always been normal and it's perfect, but they can't get pregnant.
Yeah.
And
nobody knows why. Done all the tests and nobody knows why.
And they, for example, they may show up as, and we'll dive into this in a minute, but they may have the luteinizing hormone, which if you're trying to get pregnant, you know all about the luteinizing hormone, right?
Yes.
It sends the message, so it tells your body to release an egg. Even though the LH is surging, it doesn't actually mean that the egg is being released, which is where comparing the two and seeing, okay, is it surging, or is it actually releasing, or is it not, is so important on tracking the other hormones involved. So whenever we're talking about all of the components of testing, we take into consideration, have you been on birth control or have you not been on birth control? Because that plays a critical role as well.
I was
too, in full transparency. In college, I just honestly did not feel like getting my period anymore. Is that a terrible mindset to have?
I know, listen, I know, and ladies, there's no judgment. We've all been there. We all had to make decisions in the moment, in our youth, when we didn't know any better. And with wisdom comes knowledge. And oftentimes I know you do too. I have women all the time coming in, like, after having done things that they now know weren't good for them, and feeling guilty. This is not a time or a place or even an arena to feel guilty, and we're not pointing fingers. This is a place of opening yourself up to the possibilities that maybe what you're doing aren't good for you. Or maybe you can be doing things better. So take that with a grain of salt. As we're talking with you, we're meeting you where you are, because we've been there. So yeah, I mean, we do these things for stupid reasons, really. And it's really just out of a lack of knowledge. So this is going to help you to make those better decisions, hopefully, that we made, better than we made. So you don't end up where I ended up.
Absolutely. And especially for those that have just listened to their gynecologist, and I'm not bashing them, because if someone comes to them and says, I want to get on birth control, my periods are unbearably painful, what they know and what they're trained to do is to give you something to make the period stop. Because even though you may bleed on birth control, you're actually not getting a period. It's what's called a withdrawal bleed. So your body still goes through the cycle, but birth control blocks your body's ability to be able to actually release the egg so that you don't actually ovulate. And when you don't ovulate, you don't build up the same amount of fluffiness, to say, that then needs to shed. So you still have the hormones that build up some of the fluffiness, but not fully. Vito is very interested in the subject.
You want to talk? You have something to say? You stay there. So, yeah, and here's the reality. God made a smart body, not a stupid body. There's a reason why we have a cycle. If you don't want to get pregnant, obviously you either have to abstain from having sex or figure out how not to get pregnant. And there are times where it is available to you. And we can go really deep on this, but there's great books and there's great apps out there to help you to figure that out.
Yep. So one of the other big concerns with hormonal birth control is that it depletes your body of the ability to uptake essential vitamins and minerals. Some of the main ones are vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin K, and most vitamin Bs actually too, which is a lot of the vitamins that we need, right? So because of birth control's makeup and it's blocking certain hormones from being released, it also blocks that absorption, which is huge. Which is not what we want to do.
Well, and think about all the vitamins you may be taking. I mean, I have a lot of women that come to me and they're like, look at all my vitamins. And I'm like, okay, so that's great that you have these, but your body's showing me, the tests are showing me that you're not actually utilizing them. So don't waste your money if you don't even know what your body can utilize and what it can't and what it actually needs.
Yeah, I always tell my patients, okay, this collection that you just showed me, you are peeing a very expensive bottle of water.
Yes, for sure.
So lastly, with birth control, which I'm sure if you've known anybody on birth control or if you yourself have ever been on birth control, it can impact your mood drastically. Sometimes,
if people, not you, you know your girlfriends, right? How many of your girlfriends you're like, oh darn, she is on her menstrual cycle.
The story about me, I fortunately was dating a chiropractic student when I was on birth control, and he very kindly during this time told me that I really needed to get off of it, which was honestly the best thing that could have ever happened. But it started to impact me. I wasn't impacted for a while, but guess what? Our hormones shift and they change as we grow. We hit developmental stages, both physically and then hormonally. And as our body grows and changes, just like kids do in their milestones, we do through our reproductive years. So it starts when you're 12, 13, when you get your period, and ends after menopause goes on forever, I swear, but it does end.
I can attest to that.
But birth control does influence your mood because it impacts the neurotransmitters and the way that your body receives messages. And so when that impacts you on a reproductive level, and then also on your pituitary gland, which is in your brain, which we'll get to here in a second, it starts to impact your mood regulation and how you're able to process things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So whenever we're talking about mood, this is the missing link to fertility, and we are going to talk about it here. It is stress. In all the books that I read about fertility and birth control and natural family planning and all of those books, for some reason, stress is not mentioned as much as I would think that it is.
Yeah, no, they really don't talk about stress.
They don't. Which is funny because all these books are amazing and all of these authors put so much time and energy into the research and pulling all this information, and everything that they're saying is around stress. They just don't mention stress and the importance of women prioritizing, reducing not only the emotional stress, but the physical and the chemical too.
Stress is the cause of 90% of all illnesses. And as you know, we do functional medicine in our office. And one of the things, or the thing, we call this, by the time people come to see us for functional medicine, it's usually when they're sick. You know, functional nutrition, we're working on staying healthy. Functional medicine is usually people are already in a state of autoimmunity. We find that they have the perfect storm. You know, there's been a physical stress and or a chemical stress and or an emotional stress, some combination of three of them. And every single one of them, every one of the sick women, especially that come into our office, they've had some kind of emotional stressor in their lives, whether from childhood or the way they're living their lives, like that type A driver, don't let anything get in the way, run as fast as you can with your hair on fire kind of personality. Those are the kinds of women that usually harbor a lot of the stressful effects of the way that they have handled that.
I just pictured 5 patients right off the bat.
Right. For sure.
But stress is a silent killer. I'm sure you've heard that before. And like Dr. Deb said, people come in and their hair's on fire and they are just a ball of anxiety, and it's usually stress induced. So how does that impact our brain is what I want to get into now quickly. So we have the hypothalamus, right? The hypothalamus is a part of our brain that impacts appetite, body temperature, emotions, and the pituitary gland. So we've brought up the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland itself, it controls the release of 2 very important hormones in fertility and trying to conceive. One is the follicle stimulating hormone. The second is the luteinizing hormone. So why that's so important is whenever you're stressed out, and let's pretend we live in primitive times, right? Because technically our brains still do.
Yes.
We have not caught up to this society yet. So if you're in the middle of the woods and you're being chased by a giant bear, your body is not going to be able to calm down and go through your natural cycle like it should. Like your LH is going to say, hang on, hold on.
Stop the presses. We got to get those adrenals kicked into gear, get cortisol flowing, which is another stressor long-term on the body, but short-term, it gets us moving. Yeah. So, which, by the way, you would not catch me in the woods being chased by a bear because it's just I'm not going to be there.
I might be there. That might be something that happens to me. But exactly. So if you're being chased by that bear, your pituitary gland says, pump the brakes. Don't release that hormone because we don't want that egg to go through the cycle. And
you're not ready to be pregnant.
We're not ready to be pregnant. This is not a safe space to birth and go through pregnancy and have a baby. Right? So our body still has that natural ability to halt bodily functions as it needs to. So why is that important? Because if you're in a stressed out state, you might not be being chased by a bear, but you might have stress at work, stress at home. You, in some capacity, your brain doesn't feel that you're safe, then you're not going to ovulate.
Even the stress of not being able to get pregnant, which again is a reason why we take care of this before trying to get pregnant rather than while you're trying to get pregnant. It was one of the worst things when people would say to me, like, well, stop stressing. Yeah. Like, you're not getting pregnant because you're stressed. I'm like, I literally wanted to grab them by their throat and shake them down. And that's no way to live, because the more people know, the more people talk about it, the more stressed you become, the harder and the less likely it is that you will become pregnant. But another thing I wanted to add in there, and something that we specialize in because we understand the devastating effects of the dysfunction of this organ, is the pituitary gland sends out a hormone called thyroid stimulating hormone to the thyroid. It's literally like tickling the thyroid, like, okay, come on, do your work. Go ahead and produce all the hormones that you need to produce. And then the thyroid sends hormones out, and it sends hormones to the adrenals. It sends hormones to the gut, where it gets converted to other hormones, goes to the liver. The body is the sum of all of its parts. So stress will affect everything. Stress will affect your neurotransmitters, your happy, sad hormones. So not only are we being affected chemically by a lot of the chemicals we've taken, like the birth control pill, or some of the other, chemical inhibitors of your menstrual cycle, but also by the things that we think, how we live, the way that we harbor those emotions.
Absolutely. And going back to, we already have all the eggs, right? Yeah. So this is a question that I get. Well, I already have all the eggs. Why can't my body just release it? That's a question that I got recently, because they had an ultrasound and it showed that they have the follicles and that their body is producing them like they should, but they can't get pregnant. Yeah. But just because the body has the ability to do it, it can make the choice to do it or not. Mm-hmm. And again, this is where we come back to your partner. Maybe it's not you. Maybe he's stressed out, and his ability to not perform. That's not what I meant to say. But his body is not in a good state to provide healthy sperm. And
Yeah.
so
He may look like he's performing on the outside, but he's not performing on the inside.
So stress is the secret truly to it all. And it's not, like you said, Dr. Deb, it's not that just calm down, just do yoga, just relax, it'll happen. It can be more than that.
Yeah.
We are exposed to so many chemicals every single day. And in our office, we live and breathe by thoughts, toxins, traumas. So in some capacity, we are all being affected by all of those things, sometimes more than others. But that is what we take into consideration when coming up with a pregnancy plan for someone. So we really try hard to, when someone comes to us and says they want to get pregnant, I need 9 months before. Yeah. So there's 9 months before, 9 months during, and 9 months after. For sure. That is something we recommend starting as early as you can to get your body ready.
Right. And not only to be able to get pregnant, but also to be able to sustain a healthy pregnancy. Right? I experienced getting pregnant, but not being able to sustain it. That's horrifying. And then also, not only, you don't want to just be pregnant to be pregnant. You want to be pregnant to make a baby.
Yes.
And you don't want to just make a baby that is born with deficits or dysfunctions or not meeting their milestones or on the spectrum, which I think it's now 1 out of 16 kids are on the spectrum. Yeah. Again, that's not genetic. That's being triggered by the things, exactly the same things that we're talking about here. So the healthier you are, the healthier, the more comfortable, and the happier you are during your pregnancy, the happier the baby is developing in a beautiful, healthy body. And then the healthier and the more easily you will recover from your delivery. Because again, you as a mom, if you're not told that you need to think about, or you don't know somebody that experienced a horrible postpartum, then you're completely unaware of the effects that the pregnancy will have on you, because a healthy body can sustain the healthy pregnancy and then in a healthy way recover from that pregnancy. It's a stress on your body. But if your body isn't in a really healthy state, even if you don't know it, because symptoms are the last thing to show up, like infertility, even if you don't know it, you go through a pregnancy not really being healthy. When you get to the other side of it, my mamas, they come out with thyroid problems. They come out with diabetes. They come out with chronic fatigue or the inability, depression even, right?
Postpartum.
Yeah, postpartum depression. It's very, very common, and more common than you think.
Absolutely. And if you, and I know you have, but if you have ever known a mom that has experienced both a natural pregnancy where no induction, water broke on its own, they went into labor, they labored maybe at home for as long as they could, and then before they went to the hospital or had a home birth, compared to those that have had an induced pregnancy and rushed the process and had an epidural, I personally have known multiple moms who say it is night and day on the postpartum recovery.
Oh yeah. And I'll tell you something else. A word that I've heard probably at least a half a dozen times in the last 25 years, and words that come close to meaning the same thing, is I've heard women say, these are not my words, I've heard women say after having a horrible delivery in a hospital, I mourn my delivery, not the baby, of course. I mourn the delivery process. It was so stressful, and I see how it affected me and my baby, and it was a horrible experience. Like, we don't want you to experience that.
I've heard the same thing, that morning, the birth process, because they have expectations and things that they have literally meditated on and prayed for 9 months from the moment they found out that baby was, that they were pregnant, and they have an expectation, and then the reality of what happened has stripped them of that joy, which is what we do not want to happen. Nope. So that is what we'll talk about that more on our next webinar. But sticking with fertility, this is kind of a shout out to my mother-in-law, because she used to actually work for a sleep specialist, which has taught us a ton about the importance of sleep. We've always known that sleep was important, but she has done an amazing job at really emphasizing because she got to see it on the negative side of what it would long-term cause.
Because who goes to a sleep study but somebody who's already not sleeping?
And very, very sick, right? So sleep and fertility is huge, and not just because you need to be rested and you need to recover. That is important too. But actually, your body's ability for the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone to release is tied with your circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
So if your circadian rhythm is off, and I see this a lot actually with my night shift nurses, where they struggle to get pregnant because their circadian rhythm is so horrific, to be honest. And especially if they're on maybe like a swing shift where they never actually regulate into being either night shift or day shift.
Yes. If you don't have to do that, don't do it, girls.
But DHEA is also not able to be produced whenever your circadian rhythm is off. And then that specifically impacts the egg quality itself.
Well, DHEA breaks down into testosterone and estrogen.
Yes.
And once again, you can get tested for DHEA and they're like, oh, you look good over here. But how is it breaking down? How is it converting?
Yes. What's the second part of the pathway?
Exactly.
And then also, whenever we don't sleep and our circadian rhythm is off, it's less melatonin production, which is an antioxidant, which helps us get rid of free radicals and all of the negative stuff that could impact and cause more stress. Again, if you're stressed, your body's not able to produce the egg like it should, and then you're not able to ovulate, you don't get pregnant. And if you don't have the antioxidants that you need to get rid of all of that, you might be living in a state of stress and not even know it.
And then a lot of people, and I do this occasionally, will say, well, I take melatonin to sleep, and that's awesome. I love supplements, but we call that green medicine. When you're taking something to replace a normal bodily process, whether it's natural or chemical, of course, we would rather natural. But what happens is there's effects because your body's not doing its job, right? So when you're not producing the melatonin, that means there's something that's causing that. You need to get to the root cause, number one. But two, I can tell you, again, from experience, because I've experienced all of the things, the melatonin will rob your body of magnesium.
Yep.
And magnesium, your cells need magnesium to function, period. So everything we do has a side effect, even if it's natural. We have to get to the root cause. So how can chiropractic help? We are chiropractors. So 25 years in the industry, I can tell you, I've been accused, and actually you guys too, you and Dr. Brandon have also been accused of getting women pregnant, and Dr. Brandon's not sleeping around, guys. So get those bad thoughts out of your head.
He's not available.
Yes. And women can still not get other women pregnant. Yeah. But when we work with that delicate nerve system, we know that we're turning the energy on. We're turning the electricity on that runs the body. So what do I mean by that? When you were in your mama's belly, your mother did not think, okay, grow the heart, grow the liver, eyebrows. I want brown hair to grow. She had no control.
Thankfully, because my mom would have forgot like half of the things.
I would have been blonde for real. So maybe that would have been a good thing because my mom hates my hair brown, which is my natural color. How crazy is that?
It's pretty wild.
So anyway, your moms do not have control. You are not going to have control over anything except for one thing, how healthy you keep your body, because ultimately you're an incubator. So while you're incubating a baby, or while your mom was incubating you, the first two things to develop were your brain and spinal cord, like literally within 14 days. So if you think that a baby or a fetus or an embryo is not life, it is. There's already life running through a system within 14 days. So the brain and the spinal cord are created. Then off the brain and spinal cord, we grow nerves. Those nerves literally grew every organ and cell and tissue in the body. Your heart, liver, lungs, kidneys, immune system, endocrine system, hair, eyes, ears, nose. There's nothing that did not grow off of the nerves. So it's imperative that we keep that nerve supply functioning fully, because the energy has to get from here, electricity flowing down that cord and out the nerves to those body parts so they know what they're doing. And then we have an even greater amount of energy or electricity that runs back up from the organs and cells and tissues to the brain. So the brain can calculate what has to happen next. So everybody's working at their fullest potential. So when we as chiropractors are adjusting people, it's not because we want to get them to feel better. You will probably feel better by getting adjusted. The whole thing is that you could probably take a drug to temporarily feel better from a lot of the things that you're feeling. But what our goal is to get you to function better. When we increase that nerve supply, when we increase the electricity that's running between the brain and the body, we're enabling the body to heal and function at its fullest potential. Because you're functioning in a more effective and efficient way, two of my favorite words together, we're literally enabling the body to heal itself in a better way. So it's not that you necessarily need to add more to the body. I mean, sometimes we have to supplement, but what we really want to do is remove interference. And so that spine and nerves, or the spine and the brain or the skull that protects the brain, they can literally get in the way and interfere with the body's ability to function by just a little bit of misalignment that we call a subluxation. And that acts like a dimmer switch. So if you put a little bit of pressure on a dimmer going to the lights in this room, what happens to the lights, Dr. Shaleigh?
They get lower.
They get lower. So that means they're functioning at less than their full potential. That light bulb may be capable of working at 65 watts, but essentially it's only working at 30 watts. So how long can your body go functioning at 30 watts? For a light bulb, it doesn't matter. It only affects the amount of light it sheds in a room, and you can even learn to function in the dark. But your organs can't function fully and talk to other organs and produce the chemistry that other body parts rely on if you're only working at 30%. So this is why we talk chiropractic. It's not about making you feel better or, getting you through a pregnancy where your low back doesn't hurt anymore. When we adjust you, we're restoring the nerves that go to the uterus. We're restoring the nerves that go to the thyroid. We're restoring the nerves that go to the gut to help it to detoxify and functioning better.
Absolutely. That was great.
Thank you.
That was such a great explanation of all the things that we do. And I like to say that pain management or your low back feeling better is just a side effect of your nervous system functioning better.
Yeah.
So that is just a bonus. It's a secondary thing that happens to occur as well.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about chiropractic, essentially, and everything Dr. Deb said, what we're doing is stress management. We are taking the pressure off of your nervous system that is causing and adding more stress. So then your body isn't functioning like it should. And again, that adaptability to stress. So if you're running from that bear in the woods, and does it make more sense to just keep running and running and running and running? I probably can't outrun a bear, if I'm being honest. But if I adapt to my situation, and rather than trying to outrun the bear, I run towards a village. I run towards a village that has a fire, and I know that scares the bear. I'm adapting to the situation. I'm implementing something that I know is going to help me, right, and get me and put me in a safe environment. So that's what I think about when I think about adapting to a situation. So we're not going to get rid of all the chemicals in the world. Yeah, we can limit it.
We're going to talk about it in just a minute. And there's things you should stay away from, but you can't stay unless you're going to go live off the grid. And that takes a lot of work and time and energy and money and effort. You're going to be exposed. So let's just limit the exposure.
Absolutely. And adapt to those that we are exposed to, and detox and drink clean water and eat antioxidant foods that help us cleanse them. So those are things that we can do on our end to limit the exposure. Yeah. But chiropractic itself, it is a lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle that correlates with fertility and having, I love how you said, not just getting pregnant, but sustaining and maintaining a pregnancy. When my moms come to me and they say, okay, my short-term goal for care and being under care here is I want to get pregnant. And I'm like, no. You don't want to get pregnant. You want to have a baby. There's a big difference between the two. Yeah. And so making that distinguishing factor, I think, is huge. And also in mindset on, are you focusing on getting pregnant or having a baby? Because those are two very different things.
Begin with the end in mind.
Exactly.
Right? Imagine yourself with a healthy family, happy family, because we watch those families come in our office who are so stressed out because their kids, again, they're on the spectrum. They're not behaving well. They don't sleep through the night. They're not pooping. They're sick. They've got eczema. They've got allergies. And that is not a healthy, happy way to live. That's not a way to live your life out loud.
It is not. And again, everything that we're exposed to plays a role into that. So chiropractic is a lifestyle, but we're going to talk about 3 things that you can utilize and start to implement today to help you have the best, not only lifestyle, but the best chances for a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby. Right. So number 1 is limiting chemicals. We are exposed to so many chemicals every single day, every minute, that are what's considered an endocrine disruptor.
Yes.
So your endocrine system is essentially your hormone system. So it's your body's ability to make and release and utilize certain hormones to produce a certain function, right? So the luteinizing hormone is a hormone that releases the egg and you ovulate.
Right.
So if you have an endocrine disruptor, which there are known today over 1,000 chemicals that interfere with hormone production for conception specifically, not even talking about your other hormonal functions, just conception.
Yeah. And actually, did you know that by the time, now this is an old stat, I don't even know what it is now, our country produces, and we utilize the most chemicals. Our government says, sure, use all the chemicals you want, more chemicals than any other country. Actually, our fast foods, like you think Chick-fil-A is healthy? Don't go it. Dunkin' Donuts, it's only a little donut, or I'm just going for coffee. It's not good. It's not healthy. By the time we leave the bathroom, we are exposed to 11,000 chemicals, and many of them are hormone disruptors. 11,000 before you ever walk out the door to go to work or go about your business for the day. So we have to be really wary about the things that we're exposing ourselves to. And I'm not telling you to clear the cabinets, but one thing at a time, make a decision. I'm going to change my makeup. I'm going to start using coconut oil instead of shaving gel. There's a lot of alternatives and a lot of options. And some of them can be as inexpensive as coconut oil.
And in the long term, you actually do save money. And I know that is something that we say a lot, but it really is true. A lot of these products last a lot longer than the store-bought products that have all of these chemicals. You don't need to use as much of them because they are natural and they support your body's natural ability to just be healthy and not have to fight off and defend against all the chemicals that it's exposed to. Yep. I know I love the app called the EWG app. You can go on their website and look things up, or they have an app that you can download. Which my favorite thing is you take your phone, which you always have with you, and you scan the barcode, and it will give a grade on how toxic that product is.
Yep.
And it actually has a section on endocrine system disruptors and also fertility to see if it's something that can impact your fertility.
Yeah. There's another one called Think Dirty. You go into the store, and just like Dr. Shaleigh says, you scan that product or that food, the barcode, and it'll tell you if it's clean or dirty.
Yeah.
I love that. See, so many opportunities. We didn't have this when I was younger.
And technology, utilize it. It's there. It is one of those things that
leverage it.
Leverage it so that you can make the best decisions for not just you, but for your kids and your husband and your entire family. So chemicals are one thing that you want to try and limit as much as possible. Yeah. So if you want to have fun today, download that app. It's free, or the Think Dirty app, and go around your house and just scan the products that you have sitting around. I think you will be astonished at how many endocrine disruptors are just in your home.
And you don't have to be a homeschool teacher. You don't have to be teaching your kids at home because I know some of you are watching this and you already have maybe a child or two. You teach your kids. They're going to be using the phones anyway. Yeah. Kids 11-month-olds are sitting on my adjusting tables like this, waiting to get their adjustment. I'm like, put that phone down. Like, how do they know how to use that already? But they do. Make it a game, and then say, hey, pick up what's the most toxic ingredient? Let's look it up and see what it means. And this is a great way for your kids to learn why you shouldn't eat that food and why you should eat that food. Teach them now. Don't let them grow up and, just you making the choices. Teach them how to make the choices.
Absolutely. Next is nutrition. So talking about things that we should eat and shouldn't eat. There is a lot of different diets out there and recommendations for, you have to eat paleo if you're going to get pregnant, or you have to just eat all fats, nothing else, which the most important thing is that you're eating what your body needs, which, again, we love testing in our office. Doing a food sensitivity test is huge and something that I recommend all of my moms do, or my pre-moms do, again, that 9 months when they're getting ready to get pregnant, because if you're eating foods,
Pre-mom, I like that.
Pre-mom.
That's cute. We're going to use that one.
If you're eating foods that your body reacts negatively to, and even if it's more of a sensitivity and not an actual reaction, then again, it's increasing your cortisol levels, it's increasing your inflammation, it's driving those stressors that then you can't conceive the way that you were supposed to.
Correct.
Right. So one thing that is huge with fertility is blood sugar. Yes. I love the book called The Glucose Revolution. It is a ton of information, and it just explains how blood sugar can impact your fertility in an easily digestible way. And then she's on Instagram. This is not a paid ad, but I wish she paid me. That'd be great. But the Glucose Goddess, she's awesome. She has some really fun content around controlling your blood sugar naturally, and what foods you should be eating at different times during the day. So those are just two great options.
And something I want you to take in consideration. Remember, we said begin with the end in mind. We don't just work with pregnant mamas or moms that want to be pregnant and kids, but we see people of all ages. And I am seeing a lot of not only 80 or 70-year-olds, but also 60 and 50 and even 40. We actually have a 30-something-year-old with a blood sugar problem who is literally looking into the future of maybe getting a toe removed or a foot removed because of neuropathy. And every single one of those people, I don't know if I told you this, but every one of those people that I've talked to, that I go through a history with them, they always tell me, well, my doctor says that I'm borderline diabetic. And then it occurred to me the other day, like, you can't be half pregnant, right? I mean, either you're pregnant or you're not pregnant, yet you can be half diabetic. Yeah, no. If your blood sugar is off, I promise you, it will eventually create the deficits that cause disease. So dis-ease is your body not being able to get pregnant, your body, not producing the things that it needs to or utilizing the chemistry that it needs to. Disease is when you do that over time. And the longer you go living like that with your blood sugar off, the more you're pushing yourself toward a disease process. It will happen. It's not if, it's when.
Absolutely. And talking about dis-ease in the body, and the third lifestyle recommendation is movement. So moving your body, making sure that you're developing healthy exercise habits. I think that this is something that gets it can be misleading when we talk about exercise. A lot of people have a lot of psychological issues with exercise, and especially women. But I don't like even using the term exercise. It's moving your body. So it can be light exercise. It can be heavy lifting. It can be whatever you like to do. It can be yoga or Pilates. But you have to make sure that if you're doing something that's more intense, like CrossFit or training for marathons or heavy lifting, that you are getting the right amount of fats and calories to support that.
Protein.
Totally fine. You just have to, whatever exercise you like to do, you have to back it up with the nutrition that is going to sustain and give your body the fuel that it needs.
And hydration.
Yes. So,
yeah.
Even add to hydration.
This is one of my new favorites, and there's no affiliate link. I just happen to like it. Hydrogen water. It really does. When you're giving your body the fuel that it needs, your cells need fuel, then you're looking forward not only to healthy pregnancies, but a healthy life.
Absolutely. And so sometimes we live in a world where we can't always get all the nutrients that we need from food. I am a very big advocate for try and get it from food first and then supplement as needed. And we have some supplements that we recommend. For all my moms in that pre-mom period, I would recommend a multivitamin to make sure that you get not only your basic essentials, but the trace minerals that you need. So we love Intramax. It's one of my favorites.
It even tastes good.
It
tastes
really
good. Everybody, because we sell some things that don't taste so good, people are always like, okay, Dr. Deb, excuse me, how does that taste? And I'm like, no, this is a good one.
This one's good, I promise. It tastes like mangoes. Collagen peptides, especially to support that movement and that exercise. You want to make sure that you have collagen every single day. I recommend it, and it's great for your skin and hair. Greens powder for veggies. If anything is the most depleted in our diets, it is vegetables.
For sure.
They are modified to the point where I don't even know what half of them are anymore. But we need to make sure that we supplement some form of greens, especially in that pre-9-month period. We have Ultimate Greens in the office, or just some kind of greens powder that is organic, of course, but making sure that you're supplementing that daily. Fish oils are huge for pregnancy, some form of omega-3 fatty acids that help support the healthy cholesterol that we need. Cholesterol is the number one transporter, the only transporter of hormones.
Yes.
So again, if you're making the hormone and your body wants to utilize it, but you don't have we'll call it an Uber, the Uber to get it to where it needs to go, so you don't have the cholesterol, it's not going to be utilized.
So what do you think about cholesterol meds? Like, I know young women that are on cholesterol meds. If we lower the cholesterol too much, how does that affect the cell's ability to utilize the hormones?
The hormones are not able to get to where they need to go. So the body's still producing the hormone.
Yeah.
But if their cholesterol is lowered, absolutely, it's not actually getting the hormone to where it needs to go to then have the outcome, which in this case, we've talked a lot about ovulation, could be ovulation, or implantation, or any of the other things that are required for the pregnancy to not only begin, but also to sustain, which is huge. Another thing is iron. I know a lot of women are very deficient in iron.
Actually, this is the one that, this is actually the one that I take.
Yeah.
By all, please, we're begging you, do not buy your supplements in a supermarket, even a GNC. Am I allowed to say that?
You're allowed to say that.
You need to find a place that sells healthy supplements, meaning it comes from dirt, it comes from plants, it's organic, it's carbon bonded, it's bioavailable. Most of the supplements out there are not bioavailable. I have women come to me all the time like, oh, Dr. Deb, I don't know if I should take this. I'm going to wait to take Intramax because it's expensive. It is. Because I already have Centrum women at home. And like, okay, take that $5 investment and throw it out because it's not going to do you any good. You might as well get rid of the things that are not going to be helpful to your body anyway. Spend the money where it's necessary. Spend the money where your body's actually going to get out of it what it needs. And by the way, the Intramax, which you can only get at doctor's offices, and let me pre-frame this as well. We don't sell everything, but the things that we do sell in our office, we have procured from specific companies for specific reasons. There's no one company that I know that makes everything great. So we literally handpick all of the pieces of our store to suit the needs of what we feel that, the people who come to us for help need. But Intramax has omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9 fatty acids. We're talking about nutrition. We also need to talk about food.
Yes.
When you're eating meat, for instance, let's say red meat or even chicken,
which is highly recommended, by the way. We are meat lovers here.
Yes. But you want to get it free range, organic, because the difference between the omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids that you get from that healthy meat versus the stressed out, steroid laden, antibiotic laden, hormone laden, and practically tortured animals, those stressors on that animal and on the meat are so detrimental that they completely flip on its head the omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids, so they become toxic rather than being healthy. So the Intramax does have the healthy version of omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids. It's got digestive enzymes. It's got all the ADEK, all the fat-soluble, water-soluble vitamins that you need, and all kinds of great things. But, think about where you're getting it and where the sources are, because it really matters.
It really does. And that leads me to my favorite product right now, literally on the market. Again, not a paid ad, but is my favorite prenatal, which, and I am not trying to get pregnant right now, but I take this prenatal because it is just so wholesome and it is just such a good source of vitamins and minerals and fats. It's Wild Mamas is the brand. Love their company. Love their mission.
Are we going to sell that?
I hope so.
I think we should sell it. Okay, we're gonna work on that for you girls.
I would love nothing more than to have it on our shelves. So I'll reach out. But the owner of the company is Dr. Heather, and she is a chiropractor that actually married to a cardiologist. You guys may have heard of the book. It's called The Paleo Cardiologist. That's her husband, Dr. Wolfson, and they together created this company, and it was for her actually, and she could not find a prenatal that she liked. That both fit her and her husband's expectations, right? And so all of their prenatals they're actually organs from bison, and they break them down, and they are free range, antibiotic free. No, if I were to say, these bison live in like the happiest pastures.
They're happy bison. They skip through the pasture.
That sounds so lame, but I am just such an advocate for this company, and just them in general. But these prenatals are awesome. They are not cheap. I'm not going to lie to you, but nothing good is cheap.
No,
to be honest,
it's not.
When you're talking about fertility, this is one area where you cannot skimp on your prenatals. They're very important.
Absolutely. Be very wary again of the products that you're taking.
So something I got asked recently, which I loved this question because it really led into what we were doing. But the question was, should my husband be taking a prenatal if we are about to try and conceive?
Right.
And I had to really think about this, but I did some research, and the answer is actually yes. They shouldn't be taking your prenatal vitamin, obviously, but they should be taking things like those omega-3 fatty acids, those multivitamins, collagen peptides, or some kind of protein, clean products as well, of course, but to help support their ability to have the healthiest body, to give you the healthiest sperm. One thing that I want to talk about next is male fertility rate. So there's so much pressure on women whenever they try to get pregnant. And isn't that funny how we say, like, she's trying to get pregnant?
Yes.
And
it's all on you.
It's all on you, right? You not only have to carry and birth the child, but it's also on you to get pregnant.
That's right.
But male fertility, actually, the male factor accounts for 40 to 50% of the reason that women can't get pregnant.
Yes.
So when there is that issue. So a few things that I'd love to give you that are simple tips that you can use for your significant other, or maybe he's watching this and he's the one that's intrigued. That would be amazing. But cell phones in pockets, especially your front pockets, guys.
And really, it says cell phones for everyone. But
yeah,
we're talking about the boys now.
But we're talking about sperm here. So whenever you have cell phones in your pockets, what it does is it limits not only the sperm quality, so the amount of sperm, but also the motility. So the sperm's ability to not only live, but to get from point A to point B. So those sperm have to actually swim to the egg, right? So that is something that you can do to help prevent that from occurring and to have healthy sperm. Also is elevated body temperature. Yes. So a lot of guys love saunas, love steam rooms. I'm also a big advocate. They're great, but try to limit it. Make sure that you're not spending hours in a sauna or a steam room, because that increased temperature can actually impact your sperm quality.
Which also, I'm going to say it, tighty whities, boys. Yeah. They do not work to your benefit. Nope. They may feel good.
No.
I'm not going to say they look good, but they definitely increase the heat because they're holding your testes close to your body.
Yep. And then BMI, so body mass index, whether too low or too high, either way can impact.
Which for men and women, we have an awesome tool to test your BMI. It's called the InBody, and it's amazing. It's amazing. We use it for a lot of different reasons, but we can gauge. We also have within this InBody, it will gauge where you are from, time to time. Like if we do it once a month, or we do it once every 6 months, or whatever, whether you're trying to lose weight or trying to get pregnant or getting healthier, it's a good gauge for us to see where you've been and where you're going. It's so awesome. We love it.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then any form of testosterone therapy is bad. We just want to limit that. Or if you are married or with somebody that you plan to have a child with, if they have a history of having any form of testosterone therapy, that is something that we definitely would want to do testing and check not only their testosterone levels, but their other hormone levels to see where they're at. And that's a deeper dive into some functional medicine there, but it is something we work with, as well as gut health. So gut health is, I would say, probably the epitome of all testing.
Yeah.
We need to make sure, like we talked about earlier, that your husband's eating healthy foods that support his body as well as you are too, so that the two come together and make one human, which is so cool. But do not let your husbands or your significant other think that they don't have to do anything if you're trying to get pregnant. They are responsible too. They have a part in this. It is 50-50. So you guys need to both make sure that you're actively working on your nervous system, working on your stressors, working on your mobility, your nutrition, and your hormones.
It's so true. So I'm sure you've heard knowledge is power. That is such a bunch of malarkey. I used to say that all the time. I'd BS my way into thinking that was true. And I would collect data and collect knowledge and do nothing. So don't be that person, because you're the one that's going to have to live with the outcome of your decision. So again, think with the end in mind, or act with the end in mind. What do you want? Ultimately, you want to live a happy, healthy life. People will come to us and not realize how important their health is until they've lost it. So don't be that person. Take action. What kind of action steps should they take to help them to live a healthier life and work toward a healthy pregnancy, getting pregnant, and healthy outcomes from there?
So at this point, all of the things that we talked about that they can do on their own. So limiting chemical exposure, eating healthy foods, making sure that they take action, especially on checking their hormones. I will go back to your menstrual cycle and your hormones. They are vital signs for both you and your husband or your significant other. So we want to make sure that you're checking that if you want to have kids, and if that is something that you're trying to do in the near future. The earlier you start, the better. So we're so fortunate with women's healthcare and with technology to be able to, we don't have to physically be in front of you to work with you on this, which is awesome. We fortunately have the ability in our office to have someone who does practice functional medicine. So I think,
and functional nutrition.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a team.
So we have all encompassing aspects of hormone checking and also regulation. So if you're someone who doesn't live local, we are in Sugar Hill, Georgia, but if you want to get some hormone testing, you can reach out. My email is here. We'll have an offer for you guys since you spent your day with us during this webinar. So my best recommendation would be to take your health into your own hands, because to be honest, no one else is going to do it for you. And I pray that you don't have to go down that path of struggling with your fertility, but it's in those moments that you'll realize how many people are not on your side. And that's the most unfortunate part, I think, about that process, when I have moms come to me and they're just belittled by the process of it.
Yeah. Don't wait until you're in a state of frustration. Start now. So is there a link below here?
Yeah.
So click the link below. Get started. Take some steps and measures to do better things, to know more about how your body works, and to get your body working at its optimum. We wish you all the best. And we hope that this has been helpful.
Have a great rest of your day.